Some good news today that annual rate of inflation has dropped faster than expected in the December quarter, 5.4 down to 4.1%. It's still outside the RBA's target range of between 2 and 3%, but let's hope come next Tuesday, when the bank has its first meeting for the year, we won't see a rise in our official cash rate. Joining me now for his analysis, Herald Sun Business commentator Terry McCrann. Well, good news for consumers and homeowners, fingers crossed today, but some of that retail data, Terry, was a worry. Shops are really feeling the pinch. What's your assessment from all this data out today?
Good news, bad news, Peter, out of all the data we've had. Good news, yes, inflation has fallen much faster than expected, particularly by the Reserve Bank. If it had its time over again and it could see these numbers coming, I doubt they would have hiked rates in November. It's certainly, any suggestion of any further rate hikes now is completely off the agenda. And indeed, the Reserve Bank has to start thinking about rate cuts, because the bad news is why inflation has fallen so sharply and so unexpectedly, because those high rates are working. They are hurting consumers. They are hurting home loan borrowers. Add to that all the other cost of living pressures on people generally in the community, and this is really seriously damaging the economy. We could start to see the economy turn seriously ugly over the next couple of months. It's already looking pretty ugly with those retail sales numbers. Consumer spending has cratered, and so the Reserve Bank really has to think about cutting going forward into next week and indeed into March.
What about this, I'll call it a PR exercise, the BCA is pushing a tax summit. I remember the Rudd tax summit, which was a stunt. It went nowhere other than into trouble. I think the mining tax and perhaps even the carbon tax was in that tax summit, and they weren't any good. And then, of course, we had the jobs summit last year, another PR stunt. Why on earth would we want another summit? Don't we just want politicians to do what they said they would do, what they legislate on tax?
Well, A, we want them to do what they said they would do, 100 times at least from the Prime Minister. But secondly, we don't need a summit. We don't need a new Ken Henry report analysis to know how to improve our tax system. The idea that we can fix the tax system for all time is a fantasy, but how to improve our tax system, and it's precisely what the government did, the opposite of what they did last week, because what we need is not to have higher tax brackets which impose bracket creep on taxpayers, are a disincentive to work or a disincentive to get better, but actually lower tax rates on the personal income tax side, lower corporate tax rates, and indeed, as we've seen time and again across the world, when you do that, you actually generate more revenue because you generate more activity, you generate more employment, you generate more profit. So the solutions are easy, but it's the will and the sort of cynical politics that we've seen over the last week which are defeating this whole process.